Hi again and welcome to my home, and of course welcome back. If you're watching this, it probably means that you survived my previous clips. Maybe they were a little bit too long, but there's so much I want to talk about. I'll try though in the future to be a little bit more focused, and this clip here will focus on how this looks when you have a lot of drivers. Maybe you have a big oxygen race with 20 drivers. I don't think that ever happened, but anyway. Or if you have an analog event with 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 drivers or so. How would that look on the screen? We're seeing some examples here. This is a view then that doesn't work. This one that maybe works a little bit better. But you should also then remember when we were looking at these screens here, they are currently running the same software that you will be using on your own devices, being a phone or a tablet or maybe a PC or laptop. But these will in the future run a little bit special software which makes them look a little more like you are at an airport or public transportation or somewhere else where you have a lot of screens. You see that every day, everywhere when you go out. And then you can do away with some of the different menus that you're seeing here. They're not needed in that situation. When you work with this as a race organizer, you will more, let's say, define a playlist. Those views don't need to show the same thing all the time. It can switch between different views depending on the race date and have things scrolling into the screen when, for example, when you want to have new set of drivers for the next heat, things like that. But for now, they're running the same software. You can try this out at home with your own, with downloading the apps and programs. If you do that though, and you go into the main selection where you select event in RazManager client, you can now see a demo there for this 20 drivers race. You can select and pick one, but if you do that in portrait mode on the same type of resolution, you will probably find that it feels down to here somewhere, not all the way to the bottom. And that's because that version of the software is meant for example, a tablet, where you may not want to have a too large font size when you have a few number of races, because that will do away with too many columns. So there's a limit to that. But in this situation, yes, you actually want to have that. So if you go into that little settings bottom here or there, when you run the program, go into the leaderboard tab and then toggle a setting there which says limit the font size to, well, something, and you do away with that, and it will try to fit all the content on the whole height of the screen. So that's how I've done it in this case here. If we're looking at these screens, well, maybe this one actually works quite right if you have 20 drivers. That might be 20 drivers in an oxygen race, or it might be a race leaderboard, not a heat leaderboard, but a race leaderboard in at an analog club where you have a lot of people taking part. It works from well, quite a distance actually. And we had, for example, a race night at a club yesterday where we're also showing a race leaderboard. We're doing that in portrait mode, but a smaller monitor and with a smaller font, and yeah, it doesn't work that well. You need to walk up to it to be able to see it. This one works much better actually. But if you then look at this, it works okay in portrait mode, but if you look at this in landscape mode, no, it doesn't work that well. You can see it, yes you can, if you're standing 2 meters away from it. Sure, you can. But there's a lot of wasted space here, so a better option that I will need to work with is to, when we have this number of drivers, to split that into, for example, 2 columns with 10 drivers on this side, 10 drivers on this side. Then the font size can be much larger and you can see more information. Maybe you need to do it away with some of the columns, but it will work much better, and the sort of bar there can cover all the width of the screen. So that's what I need to work with. You can also then maybe think of, well, we're watching having 20 drivers on the screen right now. If this were to be an analog rise with 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 drivers or so, you cannot show all of them on the screen, but you want to show that information. So what I need to do then to make that work a little bit better is to do as, for example, you will see in an IndyCar broadcast or something like that, when you have a lot of drivers and you cannot fit all of them on the height of screen and have a large enough font size. So what you will do then is to have, for example, the 2/3, 1/3 or the middle third with the, say, top 10 drivers, and the bottom half would then have the remaining drivers, 20, 30, 40 or whatever they are, scrolling through a list. So you will see them eventually, but you will always see the top drivers. That could be a good way of viewing at a race leaderboard. When you have a heat leaderboard in the same situation, well, you may then want to have a row of those drivers that are taking part in that heat. Maybe then there are 8 drivers that are doing that. So that will work pretty well with a landscape view. But you may also then, if you're not taking part in that heat yourself, you still want to see your overall position. And that can be added by me then doing something that, for example, they do in NASCAR, where they have a ticker there scrolling by with all of the driver's position. And then if you look a little bit in time, then you will eventually see your own position, even if it's mainly showing something else. That could be a good way that needs to work with. So while we're at it, why not try also then to see how this will look on with this number of drivers on a grid view or tile view instead. Now we are looking at the heat driver board with all the 20 drivers at the same time. We're seeing the most important information, position, gap, and in the lower row for each tile we're seeing a little bit more. It works okay-ish from 2-3 meters distance when we're viewing this from a little bit more than that on purpose. But maybe we can do a little bit more. Let's try that. Now I changed some settings and we are only showing the absolutely most important information in each driver's tile. The font size is a little bit bigger. There's a little bit wasted space. I think we can work a little bit more with the layout. Sure we can, but it's okay. It works. But let's try to actually make this even larger by using the SICK display as well. Now we have divided the 20 drivers among 2 different screens. The one to the left then, of course, showing the first 10 of those drivers, and the second one showing the remaining 10 drivers. We then have a little bit more information that we can display in the lower part for each tile. We can then also show the last number of laps for each of the drivers. That may work during practice, maybe. Maybe you don't want to have that information during a race. You want to have, well, only the most important information. So let's try that instead. A little bit more focused maybe. We have only then the most important information for all these drivers on 2 55-inch monitors. And this is quite good from a distance, I would say. So to sum it up then, we have seen a few different ways of working with a large number of drivers and discussed the future alternatives as well. Remember though that these displays here, they are not connected directly to a PC. They're not connected, for example, as we do at our club, where we are running long-running VGA cables even to the monitors that we have a little bit all over the place. These monitors instead get their information from a Raspberry Pi hooked behind this here, and those Raspberry Pis get their information through the Wi-Fi. So it's very easy to add any number of monitors, any size and any sort of orientation and resolution and everything, just to set up whatever you want to view on a specific part of the venue where you run a race. Okay, see you next time.